I'd like to thank everyone for coming to the official launch of the IDS 30th anniversary and the publication of the Guide for Parents with Deaf Children. I'd first like to introduce the IDS chairperson, Kevin O'Brien, who is going to start with the
Thank you, Eddie. Hello, everybody. I just want to wish you all a very warm welcome here today. I'm really glad to be here today for the launch for the publication of the Guide for Parents with Deaf Children and also for the 30th anniversary of the Irish Deaf Society. The Irish Deaf Society was founded back in 1981 and developed to the organisation that it is today. Many council members joined from all over Ireland. Back in 1981 I was only a young boy. And I remember Maura Buckley and Stan Ford decided to establish the action group. And this was a disability action group. It was in the year of the International Year for People with Disabilities in 1981. And at that time, I guess there was a feeling of the deaf community experiencing a lot of discrimination in their daily lives. And so that's where the motivation came to establish the Deaf Action Group, which is now today turned into the Irish Deaf Society. Maura Buckley and Stan Foran at the time, back in 1981, decided to set up a series of meetings, and the focus for those meetings was access for deaf people, equality for deaf people. Now as we look 30 years on, that feeling of experiencing discrimination is still there. We still face similar challenges that we had faced 30 years ago, but we still are fighting to eradicate that. Being deaf in a mainstream environment is not easy. Many often feel discriminated by hearing society, controlled by hearing society. They decide how we should be taught, what language we should use, and it can be quite discriminating. If I use the analogy of an ocean, and we think about the deaf community, and let's say we're fishing in the sea. The sea or the ocean is massive, and sometimes we feel like we can get lost in that ocean. But I think that it's important for us to realise that we can empower ourselves, we can make decisions ourselves, we can become stronger as a community. We want to see the eradication of discrimination, we want to become more of a deaf-led, stronger community. The Irish deaf community is a linguistic community, a linguistic minority group. Irish Sign Language is the preferred language of the community. ISL has its own grammar structure, its own facial expressions and non-manual features. It's not just sign language, but it includes the body and facial expressions also. A lot of deaf people in Ireland, over 5,000 Irish Sign Language users. Also, if you think about their families and friends and co-workers who use the language, that number extends to be quite big. Irish Sign Language is yet to be officially recognised in Ireland. However, if we look at our neighbours in Northern Ireland, it's recognised there. Irish Sign Language and British Sign Language recognised in the north. Under the Good Friday Agreement back in 2003 to 2004, ISL and BSL were recognised. Today we have yet to even put together any legislation or legal framework to recognise Irish Sign Language. And Irish Sign Language is often misunderstood. There's a lack of materials translated into Irish Sign Language and a lack of understanding as to the importance of Irish Sign Language to the deaf community. I think it's important for us to mention why it is so important to our community. the Irish deaf community are today still lobbying to see their language recognised. We want to make sure that we have full access and equality for the deaf community. Myself, I've been involved in the deaf community since I was around about the age of 21. I grew up in a mainstream environment. And for me, at the age of 21, I felt it was important for me to explore my deaf identity. And I realised after meeting many deaf people in the deaf community that it had a huge impact on me. I never imagined that one day I would have this prestigious position of becoming the chairperson. The support from the deaf community, I would like to say, a huge thank you, for this important position that I stand in now today. Back at the age of 21, I had many questions about deafness, about my identity, about culture and my values. A lot of questions that were answered through my experience of being involved in the deaf community. That's why, for me, I feel that this guide for parents of deaf children is really essential for parents who discover that they have deaf children because they have no experience. And this book will give them an understanding, will give them advice and information as to what the next steps for them are. I think it's important to mention to not be afraid of it. I think it's important to embrace this kind of information. There's plenty of rich information, so be proud of it. Just before I finish, I would like to say a huge thank you to Elaine Brennan, to Wendy Murray, Caroline McGrotty, and Deirdre Byrne. I would like to say a huge thank you for the laborious work that they put into this book. Also, I don't want to forget to mention the staff of the IDS who really worked hard to get this publication ready. I'll leave it to Elaine to go into more detail in relation to the publication. Thank you all very much for coming today, and I look forward to the celebrations of and festivities of our 30th anniversary. So see you soon.
Hello everyone, I'm very delighted that we have Councillor Gilmore here to launch our publication, finally launch our publication. I'm just going to very briefly speak about what was involved in putting the publication together. We have an advocacy service that has been based in the Irish Deaf Society, and we work with the deaf community, we work with parents, we work with service providers, or anyone who just in general has any queries about the deaf community. Sometimes we have queries from people who work with deaf people and don't know how to approach it. We work with some deaf people and hard of hearing people who experience barriers in their everyday life around communication, looking for services. They experience barriers because people are not deaf aware and don't understand their needs. So there are a lot of issues within that. So deaf people, or sometimes hearing people, come to us in the advocacy service, and my job is to provide them with information, and I have two other colleagues who I work with in doing that. We're very similar to the CICs, the Citizen Information Centres, but we're a deaf-led Citizen Information Centre. We have staff who are deaf and hearing. All of our staff are ISL users. Advocacy is not about deaf people, it's also advocating on behalf of parents with deaf children. Sometimes we get calls from parents who have just discovered that their child is deaf and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to communicate with their child. And so we have found up to now that we have no materials to actually give them. A lot of us, as the deaf community, 90% of us were born to hearing parents, so we have experience, but we didn't have anything concrete that we could actually hand to the parents. And so the IDS were successful in applying to the St. Stephen's Green Trust. We got some funding from them to publish this guidebook. So we put this together with the help of Deirdre Byrne, and because there was a lot of cutbacks within the IDS, the publication was put on hold and has been delayed. So finally this year we got up and running again, and there was a lot of changes from the material that we had initially. Most parents have similar experiences when they find out that their child is deaf. Naturally they're frightened, they're worried about their child and how much of a normal life their child is going to lead. And we wanted this guidebook to help give them a very clear idea of how their deaf child was going to have a very normal life. And we wanted to make sure that we had information around education and about, just stories about deaf people who live normal lives, because as a deaf, we really want to thank the staff within the IDS for helping us put together this guidebook. We were involved in the publication, Caroline McGrotty and Wendy Murray, for their extremely hard work, and also Judith Byrne. And also, we'd like to thank the parents who were involved in the project. We were absolutely a support group called Sharing the Journey, and I know that some of them are here. Thank you, Elaine, for your speech. Well done. Thank you. Okay, thanks, Elaine. You kept it short and sweet, but very had a great impact. And I'd like to now introduce Taoiseach Amy Gilmore. He was also the Minister for Foreign Affairs. Before I do that, on Sunday on the news he was in Tanzania, just on Sunday. So I was panicking. I thought maybe he wasn't going to come here today for the lunch. And also he was given an honorary award, which is an honour, Chief of the Tribe. I didn't know whether he was going to get back the time or not. So thank you. I just want to congratulate, today is the 100th day in the Dáil since they've been elected. So congratulations. We look forward to another 100 or even 300 days in the Dáil. It's not easy, in the coalition government, so we just have to extend a congratulations to you. And now we are going to have
introduction. If I had known that my visit to Tanzania and my elevation to chieftainship of the Maasai tribe would have made such an impact, I would have come dressed in my tribal gear. I'm delighted to have been asked to officially launch the 30th anniversary of the Irish Deaf Society, and I want to thank Kevin Mulqueen, the chairperson of the Society in particular, for the invitation to be here today. I know that you are with a lot of celebrations in store, not least the Blue Gala Ball in Portlaoise on Saturday night, which I'm sure will be a great event. I feel particularly close to this society and to the issue of deafness because as a child I experienced hearing difficulties. I think compared to the hearing challenges that most of you have experienced, I think mine were very much on the mild scale. But I do have a very clear recollection of the difficulties that it posed at school, with friends, and even in a family context. And therefore, throughout my life, I have maintained a particular interest in deafness and the challenges that people who are hard of hearing face. Your society, which was established in 1981, has been tireless in its efforts on behalf of deaf people and people who are hard of hearing, and have been tireless in challenging the attitudes to what it is to be deaf or hard of hearing. Many of the supports we take for granted today for deaf and hard of hearing people were not available back in 1981. If the truth is to be told, various structures within society had to be convinced of the need for and relevance of those supports. Today, the Irish Deaf Society provides a wide range of supports, including advocacy for deaf people through Deaf Forward, literacy classes for deaf people on a nationwide basis through the Deaf Adult Literacy Services, language classes through the Irish Sign Language Academy, along with the campaign for the recognition of Irish Sign Language. And I heard very clearly the message that you have delivered here today, Kevin, about the necessity for recognition of. I will certainly take back to my colleagues. The publication of Irish Deaf News magazine and Irish Sign Language news for the deaf on YouTube, and of course DVD translations. I was interested to read in your publicity material that the deaf community sees itself as a linguistic and cultural minority as opposed to being disabled. Your work over the last 30 years has helped to raise awareness in society of the range of needs of deaf and hard of hearing people. And most of these needs should come as no surprise to the hearing population. The deaf community want to find a positive response in their local communities, to have as healthy a life as possible, the chance to learn, and the opportunity to contribute through employment, just like the rest of society. The Irish Deaf Society provides really practical support to deaf and hard of hearing people, and to realise their full potential to participate in and contribute to their communities. And from a value system which embraces equality at its core, you have overcome many barriers and helped to change the environment in which you live. The government is aware of the very valuable contribution made by the Irish Deaf Society and the many other agencies and charities who work in this area to the provision of health and personal social services for the disability strategy continues to be the focus of government disability policy. My colleague, Minister of State Kathleen Lynch, who has responsibility for disability and equality, is currently considering the monitoring and implementation structures to progressively implement that strategy, even in those difficult times. I want to assure you that the progress on the National Disability Strategy continues, particularly through the sectoral plans, and that important developments are upcoming, including, for example, national employment strategies for people with disabilities, and of course, the value for money policy review of disability health services. I want to wish you a very happy 30th anniversary, to congratulate you on the launch of the Guidebook, the guide for parents of deaf children and the deaf community in Ireland. I want to offer you my best wishes for the future. I want to encourage you to continue first, and to assure you that personally and on behalf of the government, the door is open to you. We're willing to work with you to be helpful in whatever way we can, to listen to and to understand the cases that you are making, and to respond as best we can, given the very limited and constrained circumstances in which we are currently working. And finally, may I thank you for your compliments on the first 100 days of a government, which I anyway, don't know about the rest of you, but I anyway hope will last for a very long time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner, for. I was quite surprised that you knew a lot about the IDS and the services and provide, so thank you for that. And you know, you said you reiterated a lot of what Kevin and Elaine said about the barriers we face in society. Of course, we're still working towards recognising ISL. If you get, if you help with our campaign to recognise ISL, I mean, obviously we can't wait for another 4 or 5 years, and many EU countries have recently recognised their sign languages, including Iceland, and we feel quite embarrassed that Ireland is quite behind on that. We want to be another part of European countries. So again, thank you very much for coming. I know you're a very busy man, so thank you for giving us this time. Thank you very much.